perception becomes reality.
Yeah.
But, Chris Sims his dad was Phil Sims. He came to Texas. He was seen as kind of he was Arch Manning before Arch Manning, a celebrity quarterback. And yes, he did show up to his first practice, but he would tell you that it was not in a limo. It was a vehicle from the hotel that he was staying at the Four Seasons or one of the fancy hotels.
Right.
Because he had not moved into his new place, but it was for his first practice. And his mom, this is before Uber, and they got a ride from the hotel that they were staying at, and it happened to be a stretch SUV looking, but according to Chris, it actually said limo on the side.
Not great.
Right. So he showed up, and what did all the team see?
Well, first impressions mean something, too.
Oh, huge. You only get one chance to do it.
Right.
And he stepped out, and he would tell you that was a mistake. But it wasn't – they didn't call the limo service, and he wasn't, traveling around in a limo. It was the transportation he had from the hotel to the practice. But, yes, the moment was not lost on folks that was his first impression. But yes, and can I just say this, as my man Steve Harvey once famously said? Where's my gizmo?
Okay, folks. I have to apologize.
I have to apologize. As several of you said, we were talking about how Arkansas blew the lead in the ninth inning. How did I not mention that Aloy, the shortstop, should have returned a double play? I didn't have a highlight of that, or we would have. But yes, should have been an out, should have been an out, should have been out, should have been a double play. And this one says, Razorback tears, how sweet it is. Razor hog tears, how sweet it is. I love it. 512-834-1027. And this says, how many Texas baseball recruits will make it to campus? Does the portal affect that? Well, we'll dive into that because Texas has added a fifth player through the transfer portal. 512, and we'll take your questions on it. 512-834-1027 is the Game Time text line. But the Longhorns have added a fifth player, 4 position players, and a pitcher so far. We told you about the left-hander from Mississippi State that committed this week, coming in for the Arm Farm. But yesterday, a freshman from Seton Hall, who was an all-Big East player last year as a sophomore. Aiden Robbins is his name. He's the fifth transfer portal, but really kind of a walk-in player at the outfield position. Very toolsy guy, and that he batted over 400, 422 last year in 53 games, and had 20 steals, 44 walks. So, guy's got a great eye. This sounds like a top-of-the-order kind of guy with speed. He's also didn't make an error in the outfield, so a really good defensive outfielder. He joins Butler's Jack Maroknik.
Okay.
And now this kid, Aiden Robbins. That could be – Will Gasparino is expected to be back in the outfield. They got to get his swing figured out because he really went into a terrible slump late in the year. But speaking of toolsy, Will Gasparino is just that. But that could be your outfield. If Max Ballou does get drafted like most anticipate and he'll be off to the major leagues, and Tommy Farmer entered the transfer portal, speaking of the speed – your outfield next year, just on paper, could be Will Gasparino, Aiden Robbins, and Jake Maroknik. Could be the guys we're talking about, but that's where it is. But this kid, I was looking up some of his numbers. I mean, he's not a power guy, only 6 home runs, but speed, a great batting eye. If you bat, I mean, I need to go look at his on-base percentage.
That guy gets on base.
Oh, if you're 422 average and you have 44 walks,
for sure.
I'm assuming it was over half the time he's on base in the Big East, originally from the Philadelphia area. So, we know that they're going to be active in the portal. So now maybe your outfield is set. Now you got to figure out what's going on with the infield. And, the draft is in middle July. And what about Rylan Galvan? Could he possibly come back? And what a huge get that would be. Really depends on, how high he is drafted and where he goes. Most people think Max Ballou will be drafted too high. Jalen Flores is an interesting one, too. And that's really the challenge of college baseball. You got to wait. You do. And you got to fill it, and you want to go after the best players, but you just don't know, how that's going to play out, and then what a kid's decision is going to be, and where they're going. There were a lot of people who were surprised Jalen Flores came back last year, and he's a guy that could have gone, and but we'll see. But that's the latest. Aiden Robbins is his name for you Longhorn baseball fans. Also, we told you this last hour, the question on a Throw It At Us Thursday, will Arch Manning be in attendance at SEC Media Days in 1 month? The answer, according to Chip Brown at Horns 24/7 Sports yesterday, is yes. According to Chip, According to his source, Arch Manning will be one of the 3 players that are accompanying Steve Sarkisian at SEC Media Days with over 1,200 credited media members, including yours truly.
Yes, sir.
And he will be the featured attraction, Arch Manning. He is currently the Heisman Trophy frontrunner at plus 600. Is that fair? It's all name only, correct?
I would probably put Garrett Nussmeier, the only one that
number 2, plus 800.
Okay.
Cade Klubnik, plus 1,000.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith, plus 1,000. Arch Manning, plus 600.
I like those 3. Those 3 specifically. Jeremiah Smith, no discredit to him, but he's just not a quarterback. It's going to be tough.
It says, what about Jonah Williams? Well, yeah, Jonah Williams is a good one, too. I mean, he's going to be somewhere because you're right about that. And maybe you're right, 100%. I mean, Jonah's, you got to have that speed in the lineup. You got to have that bat in the lineup. You got to have that swagger in the lineup. From the left side, you have to think.
From double nickel.
We can't wait to watch him play football. And we were talking about this the other night when we were in relation to Jonah Williams about the football field because, Steve Sarkisian in Texas have had a freshman All-American every year Sark's been here.
Yeah.
Is this the year they don't have one? Just because there's no room at the end. Like which freshman is going to find a spot? And because Kelvin Banks had to play left tackle when he walked in as a true freshman, right, from Houston. Had to. He was their best offensive lineman almost immediately. And so he stalked, first year for Sark, it was Xavier Worthy. And, Sark had to convince him to leave his commitment to Michigan. And, hey, X, you're going to be my number 1 receiver, man. I know you're a freshman, but you're going to be my first guy. And he was. He was an impact freshman. His sophomore year, he had the injury, and he kind of tailed off, but his junior year was great, and he's now a Chief. Anthony Hill was a walk-in All-American at freshman, and then last year, Colin Simmons.
Yeah.
So the question is, who is that going to be this year, and will there be one? And Jonah Williams is such an interesting name. And on our Tuesday night live stream, Jeff Howe and Rod Babers and I were talking about could Jonah Williams, because Dwayne Aquina is now the safeties coach back at Texas. And one of the things, if you remember Dwayne Aquina when he was here creating DBU in the early 2000s, he was big on his best young players starring on special teams. Could Jonah Williams, if you watched his highlights at Galveston Ball, could that be a guy that impacts you on special teams? Kick returns, punt returns, get the ball in his hands. And you saw, you think about this kid should have been going to his high school prom, and he was starting for Texas in a regional in the outfield. He immediately became one of the 9 best players.
Too. Right, exactly.
And he was having impact for the Longhorns in a regional at 17. You project that, and one of the things we got into on Tuesday night on Texas Football was when Dwayne Aquina was at Texas, and a guy showed up from Bowie High School here in Austin named Michael Griffin with his twin brother, and Michael's immediate impact at Texas on a very talented Texas team that won national championships was on special teams.
Yeah.
He was a punt blocking. I think he still holds the record for most kicks blocked at Texas. But you just all of a sudden showed this kid, 27, showed up, and he was knocking people out on kick return when they used to do kick returns. He was blocking punts. And we're like, this guy's unbelievable. And you could see it. You wonder if there's like a Jonah, because I don't know, like the freshmen this year, because this just is a sign of a healthy program, that the freshmen just may redshirt. Because there was the best recruiting class in Texas football history, without a doubt, was 2002, and that was the Vince Young class. But a lot of those guys got here, and they were so talented already that they redshirted. Like Casey Studdard and Lyle Senline, and there were very few of those freshmen in that class, including Vince Young. Vince Young redshirted because there was just too many good players. And maybe they're to that point. That's why I say this might be the year, the first of the 5, where Sark doesn't have a freshman All-American, just because they don't get enough playing time. Maybe it's defensive lineman Justice Terry. Maybe it's Nick Townsend, a tight end, because that's a position where do it. But where are they going to find snaps? I mean, you're walking into a deep secondary, a deep linebacker core, a deep, going into the portal and adding 5 players through the portal on the D line. There's not a lot of snaps to be had. Offensive line and tight end would be the most likely, or some have even said wide receiver, because Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore. Could a Khalil Lockett or
that's where my mind was. Maybe Khalil Lockett,
Jamie French,
one of those receivers possibly, because you got Ryan Wingo and Moore already there, but maybe they could be that 3.
But they went to Stanford and brought in Emmett Mosley, who they think is going to be kind of a Jordan Whittington type. They also have a kid, Parker Livingstone.
Livingstone's pretty damn good.
That they really like, and Arch Manning really likes him. And we told you the little inside scoop that a good friend of ours actually played golf recently with the wide receivers coach at Texas. and I won't give any info, but he said one of the pieces of info is that we really like Parker Livingstone.
Yeah.
So again, I will predict, right? I don't think there'll be a freshman All-American at Texas this
And
year.
I don't think it's that bad of a thing.
No, it's not a bad thing.
I mean, you had the number one recruiting class, and
right. Well, and the last time they had a number one recruiting class, same thing.
Right.
They were it came at the end of Mac Brown stocking good recruiting classes and good players, and the greatest player in program history.
stock in the cupboards.
Vince Young redshirted.
Yeah.
All right? And he needed to develop, but when he came out of Madison High School, he was a phenomenon. He was a statewide comet, and he redshirted.
This is a good problem to have, though.
Very good
You're
problem.
developing these guys who are 18, 19 years old coming in.
They get to, redshirt, season, develop. They don't have to be forced on the field because, again, Xavier Worthy and Kelvin Banks had to get on the field.
Right. That was the state
You
of the
had
team.
to have them.
Right.
And they had to be impact players. Anthony Hill was just too good not to put on the field, even
Sure.
though that was a pretty good team. And Colin Simmons is just too elite
He's a freak.
not to put him out
Guy's a
there and
freak.
rush the passer.
Guy's a freak.
And that might be Jonah Williams. That might be Justice Terry. There might be somebody that we're not thinking about, and maybe that's true. I just think this might be the year that there isn't one that is that impactful.